I guess I'll just briefly introduce Braden. Braden is the co-founder and CEO of FinChat.io, a leading platform for financial data and AI-powered insights. He's also the co-founder behind some of Canada's top business podcasts under the Canadian Investor Podcast Network. Engineering by trade, Braden seeks to level a playing field for financial information using technology. Braden, welcome, and come on up, and we will pull this up for you. Thank you. Uh,
Some finance related AI thoughts. And then I also have Thanksgiving dinner fun facts because everyone loves a know-it-all at Thanksgiving dinner. And I think there's some things behind the scenes with AI that we've taken for granted a little bit when you have that, magical chat GPT moment, like what's happening behind the scenes? How is that possible? Um, a little bit about me. I'll take the next 2 minutes to brag about myself and then I'll shut up after that. So this was last week. I had last month, I had the pleasure of opening the Toronto Stock Exchange. And here's me, that's my dad on the left. We're all excited. I got to press the big button. And for me, this was like a lifetime dream vision of opening the stock market, right? It's like so exciting. And the reason I wanted to pick this photo is because it's badass, of course. But more importantly, this was literally my dream 5 years ago when I was trying to hack away on building a business. And things compound so fast. They compound, they compound. People here are in finance. What was like impossible, humans can't think about in exponential terms. And so on Monday, this coming Monday, I'm opening the market again. And then I'm closing the market on Wednesday. And then I'm flying to New York City and I'm doing it in the New York Stock Exchange with Google. And so like these things, they compound, they compound, they compound. So like what was a vision is now like just a regular Tuesday. So I'm trying not to take too much of it for granted. So I am the co-founder and CEO of a company called FinChat. We're a Toronto-based AI fintech. We provide investors with financial data, software. It's really a financial data terminal for everybody. So we serve institutional investors, advisors, sophisticated retail, anyone. And we actually just closed our Series A. So we now have 13 million USD in venture funding. The company's around 33 people as of today and growing. And then, as mentioned before, I started the Canadian Investor Podcast Network. I don't frequent the shows anymore, but I still own the company. It's the Canadian Real Estate Investor and the Canadian Investor Podcast. They have over 5 million downloads now. So if you want to go check out some finance podcasts, they are pretty cool. Okay, so this is a kind of the value stack map for AI technology. So like I'll get into finance specific, but I think this is pretty relevant for everyone to understand. So starting at the very bottom of like how things happen to the end user who is actually getting the value from using AI. So it all starts with energy, power, the electrons, the power that we're generating at the power facilities here in Ontario. For instance, maybe we can start with an early Thanksgiving fun fact. Who knows how the power in Ontario is made? Just roughly, like what is the number one source of power generation in Ontario? Anyone? Water. Second before nuclear. About 50% of power in Ontario is run by nuclear reactors. Quebec, 100% water. Manitoba, 100% water. Ontario, we have this huge, massive power demand in the city of Toronto and the Greater Toronto Area that in the 60s, we invented our own nuclear reactor in Pickering, Ontario, called the Canadian Deuterium Uranium Reactor. And it is still today the safest nuclear technology in the world. So we have nuclear reactors in Bowmanville, Pickering, and Kincardine in Ontario. So a lot of people don't realize how close to home some of these amazing reactors are here in Ontario. So power is required. I think people have been throwing around the fact that the stat that it's around 20 times more energy hungry for a ChatGPT query than a Google search. So we need to ramp up more and more power. Okay, so after that, semiconductors, okay? Semiconductors are these tiny chips with 9 nanometer wires on them that are able to transist power and compute over these little tiny microscopic chips. And everyone knows NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA has designed the most advanced GPU. And GPU was built for gaming. It was built for gamers to have the best rendering of graphics processing on their video games. And that's what NVIDIA's business was. When we were trying to figure out how we can have compute happen in parallel instead of series, it turns out these GPUs were actually the best tech for it. So NVIDIA started making, boatloads. I think they're expected to do $55 billion a quarter in just data center revenue. Okay, so that brings you up to the LLMs. The people buying these in mass are kind of the data centers and the cloud computing and large language models. So the large language models are OpenAI, Anthropic, Claude, open source, Google Gemini, DeepSeek from China. There's a long growing list now. And they rely on data centers and compute players, which are basically massive warehouses of computers. The large players in North America here are Amazon, Google, Microsoft. Okay, now to the top of the stack, because unless you have $100 billion to spend, the bottom here is not relevant to most people. It's just not. Unless you're putting up a power plant or a data center or designing the next GPU, most people at the application level are looking at data and software. So I'm going to spend most of the presentation on data and software. So what people are interacting with on the software side, what people are looking at in terms of new data sources, how to use AI to aggregate new data sources. All right. Thanksgiving fun fact number 2. Does anyone know what that is on the left side of the screen? I mean, it's literally a title for it, but I don't know how useful that title is. Does anyone know what that is? That is an extreme ultraviolet lithography machine from a company out of the Netherlands called ASML. ASML, you can know as the most important company in the world that 99.9% of people have never heard of. It is a 300 billion in market cap company, so it's top 15 largest, most valuable businesses in the world. Most people have never, ever heard of it. They make about 50 of these a year. The most advanced extreme ultraviolet lithography machines cost nearly $400 million each. So, about 4 times the price of a Boeing 737 jet. And they are immense. Now, what they do is they shoot a laser at a microscopic piece of molten tin so that it can refract at the smallest little size so that we can transist on a semiconductor these little lines that you could wrap around the earth many, many times on this tiny little piece of wafer. And the reason that's important is because there is so much compute happening on these microscopic little chips, and there's only one company in the world that makes them, and it's ASML. So every time you interact with your phone, anytime you turn on Apple CarPlay, you can know that there's this company in the Netherlands that made the technology possible for every single advanced chip that's made on Earth today. This company is going to be, if you haven't heard of it before, people are going to start talking about it more because it is actually in my opinion, geopolitical threat for China, the US, in terms of who gets to own this, right? Who gets to own this technology? Now China's building their own extreme ultraviolet lithography with, it's hard to say which success. Now, the reason I bring that up is because all of these players below what I'll call horizontal companies serving a lot of different industries rely on the technology from them, NVIDIA, Taiwan Semiconductor, who makes all the chips. So that's what I'll call horizontal technology. Again, at the top of the stack, software, data, very vertical. So this is happening for every single vertical, for finance, for, there's pick an industry. There's a vertical there that someone's going to make money from it. And, cherry picked my company in both categories, of course. But software on the finance side, there's companies like AlphaSense. There's companies like ours that are touching the end user. And then there's data companies. FactSet is a 13,000 person employee company. 9,000 of them do manual data collection with humans. We're going to do it all. We are doing it all with computers. And so that's another example there where we're touching both sides of the stack on finance being end user as well as the data in terms of how people are interacting with it. So this is the area you want to spend most of your time in. Again, unless you have a few $1 billion in your pocket to create the next, data center compute AWS cluster. All right, fun fact number 3. Raise your hand if you've heard that Google's falling behind in AI. Right? That's the consensus hot take right now. That was true about 3 months ago. This is the Hugging Face API developer rankings, which is basically every developer is ranking their pick on which API they think is the most consistent, has the best results, the best cost per token. And Google Gemini is now has 5 of the top 11 models. O3 is OpenAI, ChatGPT is OpenAI, Grok is Elon's XAI thing, then GPT again, Gemini. They're about 20 times cheaper than OpenAI too. And so the reason for this slide is things are changing really, really fast. And which model people are recommending to you today, I wouldn't get so latched on to what must be the best in the future. Because Gemini sucked 6 months ago. And now it's incredible. So, what might be the best today is going to change a lot tomorrow. I think is like what's really useful in your workflow is to be kind of like on the market. You got to flirt with a bunch of them, right? Like, don't get pigeonholed into one of these models because I think that there's going to be change. Okay, so back to the vertical piece of this. This is where large enterprises and startups are introducing vendors. This is where there's opportunity. So if you're working at a big bank, you're working at an insurance company, these are the types of companies that people are interested in learning more about. And adjacently to that is if you are looking at building new ideas and new companies in AI, this is the place to play. Does anyone know what Y Combinator is? Y Combinator? Yeah, okay. Y Combinator, for those who don't know, is a startup incubator out of Silicon Valley that has had an incredibly good hit rate. People go there for 3-4 months. They go live in California from all over the world, and they work on their startup. They pitch it at the end of the 3-4 months. Stripe, Airbnb, Instacart. God, the list is amazing. I think there's now over 20 unicorns that have come out of a unicorn, meaning over $1 billion valuation from Y Combinator. Every year they have their call for startups saying, we have these 10 ideas. And if you are building any 10 of these ideas, you're going to have a really good chance of getting into Y Combinator. So you can pitch us on any idea, but if you happen to have an idea in these 10 areas, we're very interested. All 10 of them fit in the top of this stack. All 10 of them. So vendors are coming to them and going, can you please incubate? Can you please start a startup that does this? It does this one piece of our workflow for us. It takes our bill of lading in the warehouse that 8 people are working on full time, takes it and puts it into our database with AI. Like simple stuff that, is happening in industry real time right now, is where I think is probably the most interesting. Now, the companies below horizontally, they're going to accrue a lot of value from it too, of course, right? It's kind of like a bit of the rich get richer situation here because they've built out this capital expenditure. I think I have to look, but Amazon spent over $100 billion last year in capital expenditures on just data center. Not a lot of people can compete with that. All right, here's my unofficial, oversimplified AI timeline. November 2022 feels like a distant moment now. The ChatGPT moment had. I would give it a useful rating of about 9 out of 10. It was the first time where you're like, oh, I have to put together a contractor agreement, or like I have this lease agreement that someone just sent me. I'll throw it through ChatGPT and they'll tell me if I'm like, if I need to look at anything in here. It was kind of like a first year university student for a lot of things. It's like kind of the intern, right? It's really good at a lot of things, but not great at everything. But at the time, I'd give that a useful rating of about 9 out of 10. 2023 is the chat with everything era. I would give that a 3 out of 10 usefulness. It didn't really build off of the momentum, in my opinion. 2024, AI is now creative. It's mainstream. It writes code. You know, people have heard of this vibe coding ordeal here, where you literally can tell the computer to build you things, can code for you, creates images, videos. Some of them are a bit creepy. LLM plus search, amazing. As soon as these companies integrated search with the LLM, it became extremely, extremely useful. That's when my queries started to drift from Google, right? Like as soon as search got in there, it's like, okay, now it just gave me all the research I have to do, all the blue links I'm going to click in, and just did it in 1 second. So I'd give that around a useful rating about 8 of 10. 2025, agents, agentic. This is the new hot buzzword in AI, agentic. It's a really fancy word for AI actually doing something from start to finish. That's when someone says, oh, I'm building an agentic platform. What they mean by that is instead of me querying ChatGPT, it's a tool that'll say, okay, I need the computer to do this. That's going to take 20 steps. It's going to go off and then go do the entire project start to finish. So it'll break it down into steps. It'll break it down into reasoning. It'll question its logic. It'll go, okay, the user says this, I might need to try 8 things and then come back, and it's checking its work along the way. So now it's like, instead of the intern being your assistant, it's now maybe the junior person completing work start to finish, right? And that's kind of the next step. I'd give this a useful rating of about 6 out of 10 currently, but it has the potential to be a 10 out of 10 usefulness. For something to go from 0 to complete in 1 prompt is amazing. I'm getting married next year, and it's like I got to make like this invite list, right? It's like I gotta make this stupid website. I vibe coded the whole thing in like 5 minutes, and it works perfectly. It takes everyone's emails, sends in a little fancy invitation. I said, I don't like how this looks. I know my fiance is going to think this looks way too much like I made it. So I'll make it, put some flowers on there. Boom, 5 minutes is perfect. It does exactly what I need to do. Who knows who the guys on the left side of the screen are? Buffett Munger? Yes. I took this photo at the last Berkshire Hathaway meeting before Charlie Munger's passing just a few months later at the age of 99. Last Saturday on his left, Warren Buffett just stepped down as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway at the age of 94. These guys are the greatest of all time investors, bar none. They're the Wayne Gretzky's of investing. They're the Michael Jordan of excellence. And I think that they laid out my vision for financial research for the future. I think they built that 70 years ago. And what I mean by that is Warren Buffett doesn't use a computer. He's the best of all time, doesn't use a computer. And so he just built this system around him to give him information that he can sit and think all day long. He built the system around him for Berkshire Hathaway for him to just be able to create a few decisions for himself. So what we're doing with FinChat is we look at an analyst who might spend, they grab their coffee at 1, 2 p.m. and go build out their model for the next 2 hours and look through 30 10 queues to get all of the data that they need in their spreadsheet, when AI can do it with perfect accuracy in 3 milliseconds. That's our vision for the future is a lot less paperwork. It's more like, okay, let me just synthesize these decisions. Let me go meet with more clients. Let me go grow my business and not like live in Excel all day. And so the agentic AI has the real possibility of delivering on this promise for what I believe to be the system of excellence these guys built 7 years ago with no computers. I'll give you a real life example. Our competitors that I've mentioned before, they do it manually. They manually enter in data. I like to call them data sweatshops because it gets them a little angry. But they are, right? They are. They're people manually entering data all day long. And so since we're doing it with computers live and there's no delay, Perplexity chose us over these big billion-dollar companies to provide them with financial data real time. So we announced this last week. I'm calling it, like I called the press release like the golden era of information, because people are able to get what they want real time and there's no delay. They don't have to look for external sources. If all of the data is available to the public, that means the public should have access to it. And the traditional ways of getting this data has been pay really expensive licensing fees. Really, really expensive licensing fees that only the elite institutions have the money for. It's all public data. It's all available in the public domain, but they had to build these systems to aggregate it. What we're doing is obviously highly disruptive. I have some other tangible examples. So we built this amazing Copilot in 2023, and then people think we stole it from Microsoft, but I'm sure they didn't steal it from us, but we had it first. The tangible example that I want to give you guys today is just a really basic one, which is we built this really, really complex system, and then we had hedge fund analysts come to us and go, dude, I just want to summarize the transcript. I don't need you to do all this really complex stuff. I just need to summarize. I don't want to read it. So I just need you to summarize it. And we're like, okay, I think we lost the script a little bit. Let's go back to basics here, where here's a Walmart press release they came out with in April 2025. And I put in a custom prompt on the right that just says, tell me all their concerns around tariffs and how it's going to affect their business. That might take the analyst to listen or read that transcript of maybe 15, 20 minutes. Maybe more to give it back to their portfolio manager. This is just a few seconds of work, right? And just synthesizing it to its most basic ideas. So this is technology that's been around for a long time. I think it's a good example of what customers actually want. We built the Ferrari and they wanted the Honda. So we're now implementing the Honda everywhere across the platform. This is Tobias Luke is the founder and CEO of Shopify. Obviously, an amazing Canadian success story. And he's really good at marketing. So what he did was he posted this and said, this was our leaked internal memo, but he posted it. Really good idea, because then it creates instant controversy and gets people thinking and gets them emotional about his leaked memo to the company. But he literally just posted it. The summary of this email that he put together was, you are not allowed to hire at Shopify today if you can't prove that it can't be done with AI. No more hiring unless you can prove that it can be done with AI. And for people who are looking in the job market, that is deflating, right? You're like, oh my God, I'm trying to get a job. And this guy is literally posting that, don't even think about it unless AI can do it for you. So it's a bit deflating, but it's the reality. And that's why I want to give 3 tips to take away on how to position yourself here, because we can complain about technological revolution. I think every generation has their technology window change, and you got to position yourself for it. It's just the reality. The only constant is change. Here's a fun fact. Hedge funds are now hiring more machine learning engineers than finance grads. So not going to the finance grad department, they're going to the machine learning engineers. And so I know a lot of finance majors who are learning to code right now, or learning how to vibe code, or making themselves technical, I think is probably the right thing, because the age of them just coming in and being managers is not going to happen anymore. They need to actually contribute. Quant firms like Citadel, Two Sigma, Rentech are essentially tech companies. I don't think it's been more important now to learn those skills than ever before. Positioning yourself, number two, become the internal go-to person when it comes to AI vendors that people are checking out and flirting with. VanEck Asset Management is a New York 120 billion AUM firm. They're a large customer of ours. They actually became investors after they onboarded us as well. So like that was another vote of confidence. So to power their 50 analysts, the analyst that brought us forward to Jan Van Eck himself, like the man with the name on the door in New York there, he brought us to them. They picked us. He now leads their AI efforts internally. So he was a probably 5-year analyst, and now he's like head of AI. That's a big, big promo for an asset manager of 120 billion of AUM. So him kind of being the guy that knew all the players in the space really got him forward. This is my last slide. Naval Ravikant, very famous in the Valley, investor, entrepreneur, thought leader. I really like this tweet, which is paperwork isn't work. The robots can have it, which is basically, if there are all of the things that we really want to latch onto with humans in terms of jobs, is paperwork really the one? Because right now, knowledge work with AI is coming straight for paperwork's throat. And every technological innovation, all the way back to the railroads, has led to more work, not less. It hasn't been like, when they came out with the car, everyone was worried about what the horses are going to do. What are the horses going to do? That was like a real concern back then. Every single time we have come up with more work to do. It hasn't been less work. People are more busy now than ever. Employment's at an all-time low. Like, I mean, there's a difference in reality and headlines over the next few years, especially with AI and the numbers around employment and stuff like that. So I don't think paperwork's the one that we really want to latch onto. And that's probably the area over the next 2 years that gets chewed up the most. So I don't know. I really like this quote. Paperwork isn't work. The robots can have it. That's it. Open for any questions.
Last question. Anyone have a question for him, please? Yeah, can we get you a mic? That's the only thing.
Yep. I can just walk.
I'll see if I should. We'll just do it.
Okay.
We can, because we have a lot more people.
Sure. Is there online questions too?
Yeah.
I can answer a couple.
Ask for you.
Hi, thank you for that. That was very insightful. I guess my first question, or my only question would be, for someone who is graduating in this new industry, in this changing industry, should I say, and maybe from an economics or finance or business background, maybe masters in software isn't something that one would go into directly. So how would you recommend diversifying and positioning oneself in that market, if not for that technical experience that you would necessarily achieve in a master's or postgraduate program?
Great question. So it's if I could paraphrase, I'm in a master's. You're suggesting I learn technical skills. I'm not going to go learn them through a software engineering degree because of where I'm at. What do I do? Is that kind of the...
Well, if not for the master's,
Right.
then what's the alternative?
My co-founder, Kevin, learned how to code completely by himself in 2021. We started the company in 2022 together. He has the least amount of technical experience of anyone on our in our company on paper, he still puts out more code than anyone else, than the entire development team almost combined. Like it was all of it combined up until like, employee 12. Like that's how cracked this guy is. And so I don't think it's really around like, oh, I need to go get those skills. You're in an amazing position if you finish with a like MBA from here. But I do think messing around with those tools and understanding that the computer now can write code for you today without having to go, like it's such an advantage for you, if anything. That's what I mean around like, there's always going to be technological change, but this is a good one to ride, if anything, in my opinion, when it comes to change, because you don't have to learn those software engineering skills. You already have the domain finance experience and skills, which you can then apply vertically with this new technology. I mean, people are building entire companies without knowing how to code now. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Cursor, Windsurf, Replit, ChatGPT, Claude, they'll write entire things for you. But you have to know what you want, right? So that's your advantage. Hopefully that helps.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Oh, anyone? I saw his hand first.
Wanted to find out in the future and even now, the what one receives in terms of remuneration for one's work. Will work be more along the lines of thinking than doing? And when you get that's the premium, is thinking and solving bigger problems rather than just doing work, which is just doing.
Right. So it's kind of like busy work versus like complete, like objectively useful work. If I understand correctly. Is that? Yeah. Okay. So the question is, does this allow us to solve more complex problems because the inputs are already maybe the busy paperwork, those inputs are already completed for me potentially.
You get paid for doing that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like the Buffett Munger slide, right? Like those guys got paid for their ability to make decisions and think, and just really only a few decisions a day. Jeff Bezos comes into his work day and he said, if I have to make more than 3 decisions today, I've done something wrong. Like I haven't built the right system around me if Bezos has to make more than 3 decisions per day, right? Because there should really only be that like a few key decisions he has to make for the company to keep moving forward, at scale. So I think if the busy work, like say you're an analyst and all the modeling can be done for you with one click of a button, my 8-hour day, maybe 6 of it was just to get to a point where those 2 hours where I can think. Now you have all 8 hours to think, and then maybe there's a client lunch, there's a client, happy hour that you can go to and grow the business, right? Get more assets. So I think it's amazing, right? Like your 8-hour day, maybe 6 of it was busy work. Now maybe an hour or 2 of it is.
To follow up on that, do you think you should like Yeah, just to follow up, do you think even junior people will have to think like a CEO, because they would the thinking, the human brain power would have to be utilized right from the get-go, and so the organizations are going to be, I mean, right now a lot of like big companies have hierarchical, but there will be more like startups where it'll be as flat as can be, because you're expected to have in-depth thinking abilities right from day one, similar to what the CEO would have or executives.
I mean, aspirationally, I don't think that that's different now. I think that that's a great goal aspirationally for anyone in their career 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and now. It's like a high agency a high agency person puts them in a situation where their boss doesn't need to rely on them constantly to make decisions and execute. They gain trust in the organization. I don't think that that's any different today, honestly. I think it's more of the same.
Hi, my name is Peter Lee. So, thank you for your presentation. It was really inspiring and insightful. And obviously, congratulations on your wedding next year.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, as someone that loves startups, I'm very curious what got you inspired to create this company? What really got you there?
I wish it was a little bit more of a fun story, but I wanted Yahoo Finance on steroids. And so I started building it in 2020. And then now it's kind of come into its own. And this, like, now we're being a financial data infrastructure company. We're powering a lot of the different AI companies now. Like I talking about the Perplexity announcement that we just had with deals with them. But it was really just Yahoo Finance on steroids was the idea. And it's pivoted. And I realized all the value in the stack was accruing to the big incumbents. So we've had to build competing data infrastructure aggregation to make them really dance.
And also, I wanted to add, how did you get your team at first? How did you meet your co-founder?
Yeah, okay. Well, that's actually a fun story. I have 3 co-founders, so there's 4 of us. I met Adrian, our COO. He was putting together data structures for a bunch of public companies. And I found him on Twitter. He was anonymous. I thought he was going to be like, I don't know, like Bangladesh or something. He was just an anonymous Twitter account. He lived 10 minutes from my house. Just complete fluke. Kevin, we bought his company when we started the company. So that was an interesting one. And Ryan, our CTO, we've been best friends since we were 10.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Wait for the mic.
Regarding your terminal, is it mostly just fundamental data, or do you also have like technical?
It's exclusively fundamental.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are you going to be adding technical as well in the future potentially, like order flow or?
Never say never, but we'll probably move to fundamentals for other asset classes first, like
Yeah.
credit.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, credit, privates.
Yeah.
We look at ourselves as like an information company, so we're aggregating information from first-party sources.
Okay.
But never say never on technicals. There's a huge demand for that. I just
Sure.
think most of the problems have been solved.
Yeah.
For them.
I
already.
disagree.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know it as well too,
Okay.
right? So there's also like founder market fit.
For sure. Absolutely.
We don't live in that world, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's a good world, but it's just
Yeah.
not ours.
Yeah. Makes sense. Cool. Good luck.
Thank you. Maybe one more, maybe. If not. One more here. We'll do this as the last one.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. It was really insightful. My question would be, where do you think the management roles are going with the innovations in AI? And how do you think a person in management role should go about like improving himself or herself?
Yeah, I think that this is actually kind of the big question right now is like the individual contributor role with AI can contribute so much that it's like, what does that middle layer do? But if anything, it's a dream for someone in the management role to have the output of their team increase. So I don't think that there's actually inherently going to be that many changes other than the fact that executive and compensation will follow the laws of capitalism, which is the best product, the best, better, faster, cheaper always wins. And so for managers thinking about their team, better, faster, cheaper always wins. So if you want to drive results for the organization, I think it's the same. It's not the rules of the game haven't changed. The tools to play the game have changed. but the game is the exact same game. So I don't think there's a whole lot of changes other than like you got to be thinking about choosing to ignore it would be crazy. It's like my analogy for Bitcoin. People hate Bitcoin or they love it. There's no like I kind of dabble guy. There's like I put my whole life savings in Bitcoin and I wouldn't touch it. Charlie Munger called it rat poison. Okay, these are the two like disparities. My reaction is have whatever opinion on it you want. If you choose to ignore it, that's crazy to me. Choosing to ignore it would be crazy. I think it's the same thing with AI and managing your organization around it. Choosing to ignore it would be kind of insane, in my opinion.
Great. Wonderful.
Thank you
very much. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.